It is, and it is the science of time.
It is the science of time.
So
Exactly.
to look at astronomy without considering astrology is like looking at a master's painting and saying, this is just brown and yellow and a bit of red thrown in there and some dots, and oh, look, he's drawn, missing the feeling, great. Missing the soul of it. Or it's like me looking at you and saying, well, there's a head on top of, body with a couple of arms, and what makes you who you are?
Exactly. The essence.
Yeah.
The essence. And it's the difference between, you could say, the right hemisphere and the left. If you look at everything digitally and linearly, you'll be missing everything, the sphere around it, the aura, the energy.
Yeah, exactly. And astrology, it being the science of time, it's also the science of understanding our path. It connects one life to the next. Vedic astrology is based on the science of transmigration of the soul. So what does that mean? It means the understanding of reincarnation. It's said in the Vedas that for one who is born, death is certain. And for one who dies, birth is certain. So it's a continual understanding. So when we look at a birth chart of a person, and we call this branch of astrology genethliology, when we look at the birth chart, we're basically seeing the karma that soul is bringing into this life. What circumstances that he will have to go through. What opportunities that he will have, or she has, on every single level. Right? What were they here to do? And of course it will show, well, what are the proclivities of the person? So for parents, in India, parents always would have horoscope done at birth. And this way you can direct your child. I mean, if you can see, well, this child is suited for a certain occupation, suited for a certain direction, then why are you going to encourage him in something that's the antithesis of why they're here? And it shows the nature. It shows the nature. It shows you how you think, how you feel. And so therefore, there's a method, you might say, to this madness of being here on Earth.
Yes, and there is madness to it.
Of course. It seems
there's a method around here somewhere. I know it.
So it's a wonderful way to understand what I brought in. And then, of course, action shapes destiny. So therefore, how you act will shape that destiny to come. We also add that free will. But there is no negating a person that is meant to develop in a certain way. So let's just say people always ask me, I have to admit, majority of people, if I didn't speak about these things on the material level, they want to know what's going on with my work, my career, what's going on with my love life. Right. This is all a part of life.
That's
I mean, it's a very important part of life.
And it can be either treated mundanely or profanely, or it could be treated sacredly. There's nothing on earth that cannot be made sacred.
This is absolutely true if you get it.
Exactly.
Might say it's not all about weathering the storm. It's learning how to dance in the rain.
Yeah.
Right? So we get a certain measure of so-called enjoyment, so-called pleasures and happiness, and we never question those things. Never. When we're earning well, or when our love life is going well and the family's going well and we're getting these things that make us feel really great, and great friendships and interactions and having fun, we don't question that, do we? But when we suffer,
the chips are down,
that is when we begin to question. And therefore, it's very important to understand there's a balance there, right? There's going to be happiness and distress. So at the end of the day, what's it all meant for? Some of us will be able to begin to learn. We'll want to seek, well, what does it mean? What am I here to learn? There is a lot of people that don't, and therefore that's not open to them. So in my work, I find that generally people that come to see me are directed to see me. There's a reason, but I find it very interesting that I've had a lot of people come to me because their spouses come. And sometimes I would ask, well, tell me, why are you here? And I've had people say, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Listen.
My wife said I should come to see you. And by the end of the session, it has changed their entire belief system. They're puzzled. They're step back because all I knew was when they were born. Right. And all of a sudden, I can connect with them. With what? Piercing,
searing intelligence and insight. I have the same thing as a therapist. You think that most men want to come to therapy? They come because their spouses or their partners or their girlfriends want them to be there. And they come, begrudgingly, generally speaking. And it's only in that space of working with them in a loving, compassionate, understanding way that they can begin to gather some benefit from it.
Well, to our male credit, I have to say,
yes,
25 years ago, 30 years ago, that was true. The majority of the clients that came to me were all female. Today, it is pretty equal. It is pretty equal, and I think that has a lot to do with the deeper philosophical understandings due to the connection with yoga, Ayurveda, right? And all of a sudden in people's minds. And so there's a connection between all of them. As you said, that we teach workshops, my wife and I, on the three sister sciences, yoga, Vedic astrology, and Ayurveda. And they're not different. The philosophy behind all of them is the same.
Right.
It's all the same.
They're just different branches or limbs, as it said, of the same tree. Could you give us some insight then into what is Ayurveda?
Well, Ayurveda is, Ayur means life, and Veda means knowledge. So it's the knowledge of life, and so it's the knowledge of our physical self. It's mostly preventative medicine. Mm-hmm. Okay, but it's not just, what you eat, although the diets, I'm sure many people have heard, an Ayurvedic diet.
Sure.
And also, we get the term sattvic. Sattvic means goodness. And so therefore, the more we eat those things...
Sat comes from the Sanskrit truth.
It does, absolutely. But the more we...
Which is good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. The more we eat a diet which allows us to raise our consciousness, the more we live a lifestyle. And you can live, shall we say, a good lifestyle anywhere. It's not that, in New York City, I can't avoid being stressed out. No, it's a matter of how you deal with it. Right? How you deal with it.
How you, as you so beautifully put it, dance in the rain.
Yeah. So, so Ayurveda still has at its core understanding, in actuality, I am a soul. Okay, that's what I am.
That base.
And I'm covered by these different bodies, the mental body, the emotional body, right? You might say the psychic body. And the physical body is the outer. Mm-hmm. Right? It's the outer shell, right. I'd say. So it's that deeper understanding of how I got into this, how I am here. Well, since I'm here, it behooves me to be as healthy as possible, because if I'm healthy in body, then I'm going to be healthier in mind, and I'm going to be happier. Isn't that the bottom line? Definitely. If they had a pill, right, they said, take this pill and you will be happy. There'd be lines for miles, but it's not possible. And many people are feeling this inner angst. Why is it that antidepressants are so huge? Why, if you stop and wonder, why is it that we're not satisfied or we don't feel good being us? Right? Why is that? So it's a matter of not having the knowledge of what makes me tick. It's all right to be me. I'm not perfect. I'm not supposed to be perfect. The world's not perfect. But here is a science that allows us to understand how to become as healthy as possible.
So there are also the other terms, the attendant terms that go with sattvic of Rajasic and Tamasic. Could you define these for our audience?
Sattvic means the mode of goodness. Mm-hmm. Rajasic means the mode of passion. And Tamasic directly means the mode of ignorance. But life is a mixture of all of them. But we want to try to aim towards more of the mixture of Rajasic and Sattva for most of us. Right? We have to be passionate about what we do. We have to be passionate about, right, being healthy, about loving life, about feeling that I'm here for a reason. And every day I'm grateful for being here and moving forward with it.
Exactly.
Tamas is something that we want less of. The things, that hold us back.
Who wants ignorance?
No. And those things, you might say, drug addiction, alcoholism. Nobody, when they're a child, says, when I grow up, I'm going to be a heroin addict, or I'm going to be an alcoholic. Nobody says that, or I'm going to be taking these pills every day because, I just don't feel right and I don't know what else to do.
Right.
So, because who's teaching us? Right?
Exactly. So moving along to the next branch, which is yoga of the three sisters, and then we'll circle back around to, looking at the astrology that you developed on me, and then we'll also look at me in the world. How's that?
That sounds fine.
Okay, good.
Well, yoga is the means. Yoga means union. It means union. Ultimately, it means union with the divine. So therefore, yoga, the ultimate goal of it is to find who we really are. You can't talk about, who is God? People want to imagine God in the personal aspect before they can understand who they are. Right?
Most people think of yoga, which is what we focus on here in the West, as you know, Howard, as Hatha yoga, is a physical activity discipline, and yet in the larger ancient perspective, Hatha yoga is one of several yogas.
It is, but Hatha yoga contains all of the limbs, we might say, of yoga. And the physical, which is asana, more correctly put, it is people basically go to asana classes. And we sort of call those in the yoga world gym yoga, where nothing else is really included. It's entirely based on the physical, without beginning to bring in the breathing is so essential, because it's the pranayama. It's the learning how to breathe correctly that calms the mind. No amount of physical exercise on its own will calm your mind. And we've got to quiet that mind to be able to begin to feel satisfied.
Exactly.
And so Hatha yoga contains all of those. Meditation is a part of it. All of these things. But you get a healthy body. You make the mind healthier. Now you've got a fertile field for beginning to understand the great philosophical questions of life. So it's absolutely essential. But to not include those is missing the heart of it. So yoga's the means. You might say that's the action to get there. Vedic astrology, Jyotish, is the understanding of the timeline of where did I come from. We can actually look a bit into the past life. Sometimes we can see more than others. Not everything. I can't say, you were Jim Jones and you did this or that. But we can see what you brought in with you, what likely, the path that you brought in, and then what you have to go through in this lifetime. The Ayurveda is to help you to become healthy and adjusted. And the yoga is the activity. It's the actual, you might say, spiritual practice. It's the practice. Right, because you've got to have practice. Faith only takes you so far, right? Belief only takes you so far.
Mind only takes you so far.
Yeah, because people's beliefs change, right? You say, I thought you were into that. Well, I'm not into that anymore. I used to believe this or that. But when you realize something, when you have a realization, it's deep in the heart. It's very, very deep. So yoga leads us to having realizations, which we then build upon during life. And so you live in a state of becoming more and more adjusted constantly.
Yes, exactly. It's beautifully put, the way you show how each of these, one dealing with body, time, action,
it's all interconnected.